Well, thank you so much for taking a minute out today. It's great to meet you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Me too. So let's begin our journey with this. I always start with this question. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing our lives and our world. How did you get through that coronavirus era? And how has it changed the way that you approach work and living today?
I actually had a very good or quarantine experience. I was living in Miami and it was warm. Everything was closed maybe for like a minute, but my trainer, who owns her own studio, she would come to my house. So she lived super close to me. So we set up a gym in my yard. So I took that time to actually get in great shape. I learned how to do lymphatic work. So before the pandemic, I was very like, I had a lot of inflammation. So we started doing, just because we had all this extra time, a lot of fitness training, a lot of lymphatic work. And then I came out of the pandemic looking way better than when I started. So for
Yeah.
me, it was like a benefit that
Yeah.
time. I discovered a lot in terms of fitness and, like I said, with the lymphatic. So that was actually good for me. I was really very eating very clean and really focused.
You know what I was surprised during that time? I mean, the toilet paper thing was weird, but I was surprised that when I would go to a liquor store, that I figured the shelves would be completely cleared and emptied. And they weren't. I mean, there was just, and I hear more and more people took that opportunity
Mhm.
to be healthier. I mean, there were some
Yeah.
people that, you know, did excess with sugar and with booze and whatever, but I think there was a lot of people that really grabbed onto this to take care of their bodies and do something that they had been wanting to do. And that reset pause the world was in really kind of sank in a good way.
Yeah. No, I definitely took that time to better myself for sure.
So before we get into your book, I want to know this. I want to get a handle on what you do on a regular basis as a professional, and I'm going to do that by putting you in front of a bunch of kids. They're 12 years old, you're at career day, the kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
So there's two parts. I own a residential lending mortgage company with my ex, so we're partners. So that's my main income. And so I've started writing books a couple of years ago. So my book was published. So I'm an author
Yeah.
as well. So I would just say I'm an entrepreneur and an author. And so I kind of went down that path with writing the book. And now I've just finished my second. I'm getting ready to write my third. And I established following on Instagram because publishers were like, "Oh, you don't have a following. How are we going to do this?" So that's when I started establishing Instagram, doing a lot of campaigns to get followers for my book. And I was lucky that my book became a bestseller the first 2 weeks that it was pre-saled through the Kindle. So that was great. And then it just kind of went from there. So then, I'm on podcasts and I have a show now called Parties Over show on YouTube and different podcast platforms. So just kind of my whole world opened up after the
Yeah.
separation with my ex.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What did you want to be when you were a kid? When you were 12 years old and you were sitting in that seat in school, what was your dream gig?
An entrepreneur. I just didn't know. Knew I was going to have my own business. I just didn't know which path I was taking and how that would work. But I always knew that I was going to work for myself.
So where were you born and raised?
In Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, the city
Yeah.
of Edgar Allan Poe. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So let me ask you this. What were the early seeds that were planted? You know, a lot of our psyches develop by three. What were the things that were really adding to you, not only being an entrepreneur and wanting that lifestyle, but being an author and being successful? How did all of those things kind of get mixed into this?
I was always an overachiever. So I was the person in school that wanted perfect attendance no matter what, like if it killed me,
Yeah.
like that sort of thing. And like I always tried to overachieve in everything that I did. And then fast forward in high school, I was in like a junior achievements program, or when my school would say, like, "Oh, we're doing a candy drive." I was always the top salesperson. So I worked super hard with everything that I did when I was younger. And I think that just helped me to have that kind of structure as I became older. So after college, I worked for a new home builder and I wasn't very happy because it's like giving up your weekends. And then my friend got into the mortgage industry and she's like, "Oh, you need to quit your job. You need to work with me." So I immediately quit, got into the mortgage industry. I knew nothing about it. I had no idea what I was doing. I learned it in 3 months. And then by age 27, I had my own mortgage company. So it happened. I just
Yeah.
didn't know how it was going to happen, and I didn't exactly know like which industry I was going into.
Yeah.
And then fast forward when I started doing like all these procedures and all these beauty treatments, and people would ask me a million questions, I decided to write the book. So that was much later in life that I
Okay.
decided, to do that. So, for many years I was just, in the mortgage industry.
So what kind of example did your folks set? What were they doing for a living?
They were very structured with their careers. So my mom was in electronics and she worked hard. My dad, at the time, I thought he worked for the government, but after he passed, we realized that he was undercover CIA. So the whole time, I thought that they just had like regular jobs and they were just like regular people, which not exactly. But so she knew he was undercover CIA, just nobody else really knew. So it was a good cover. But they just had like regular jobs. So when I graduated from college, my dad was like, "Oh, you should work for the government because it's safe, it's stable." And I never wanted that. I never wanted to be capped. So I always had jobs that were commission based only.
My dad was in the Air Force and he would do the same thing. What do you think about getting a career in the military? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I
Yeah,
mean,
no.
I'm all for people that do that, that have that in their bloodstream, but I just didn't, I didn't feel it. So I'm curious with books, with the literary route in your mind and your life. What books were you reading? What was swaying you to get to this point where you became a bestseller so quick?
Honestly, I didn't really read a lot of, I mean, I read a ton of books when I was younger because
Yeah.
that's all we could do besides watch TV. So I read a lot of books when I was younger. I never really thought about becoming an author until one day I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to write a book for, and just explain everything in the book because I get questions so much about these procedures because I've done so many. I found early on that after I wrote the introduction and I wrote the outline that I'm not really a writer. So I needed help. So I found Erica Florentine, which is my co-writer, and she's amazing. So we actually got the book done within 6 months and she helped with the second book as well. So it's easier. Like I had all the ideas and I knew what I wanted to talk about, but to have a professional writer help you is a game changer.
So let's get into the book from bullshit to Botox. I want to know, what was the first time that you had the procedure done? What made you do it? How did that journey begin that ultimately culminated into this book?
The first one was breast augmentation, but before that, that was at age 27. Before that, when I met my ex, I was 26. And a month into our relationship, he told me, "Oh, your body's soft. You need to go to the gym." Well, I didn't even understand what that meant. I'm like, okay, because no one's ever said anything about my physical appearance before. I never even thought there was something wrong with me until that conversation. But subconsciously, it must have really bothered me. But consciously, I just thought, okay, I need to go to the gym. And it didn't really, at least I didn't think it really affected me. But the first procedure was breast augmentation and then it just kind of went from there. So I think that I was always feeling like insecure, like, okay, my body's not good enough. I don't look good enough. So I go down this whole external journey without really loving and caring about myself. And then I realized, look, I've done all these procedures and I'm not happy. So then I had to do the whole like internal journey to figure out how to love myself. I went through life coaching and all these different things. And realized, I had so much toxic in my life that I had to eliminate with my ex, friends, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, it was a process. It should have been reversed, but
Right. Yeah. So do you remember before Kanye West became a maniac, his mom had a
yes,
procedure done, right? What did she have done? Didn't she passed on the
yes, she did. It was something minor, but I think from what I understand, she it was from the anesthesia that she was sick when she
Gotcha.
did the procedure. I don't remember what she had, but she was sick and either they didn't like she didn't do the proper protocol leading up to her surgery, but she died from the anesthesia
So did you ever, and the reason why I bring that up is, did you ever have a fear that something was going to go sideways during one of these procedures? Was that ever a part of
all the
your
time.
yeah.
So I tried all the procedures that I've done, I've tried to just do twilight, which when it wears off, you wake up. A few times I had to do general where you're not breathing, where you're intubated, and I was scared to death. Like
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine because, anytime you get into a situation like that, we're all human. but I just was curious if
Yeah.
that was coursing through your
Well, I've only
brain.
been intubated twice. All the other procedures were done by twilight because I was very adamant with the doctors. Like, I just want twilight because it's not a big deal. Like, you wake up when it wears off. So they all agreed, except for two said no. So I was kind of stuck like last minute
Yeah,
negotiating with them, with the
sure.
anesthesiologist, and I have lost. So I just said, okay, I'll give it a try. But yeah, it's scary.
Of course. So let me ask you this. Let me take you back to that career day question. Let's say you were in a middle school and you had a girl that came up to you that was 14, 15 years old and said, "Look, I'm really into this guy. He said that I need to get some work done." What would you tell someone? I mean, that's young, but if somebody came up to you with all of your experiences that you've been through and presented that option of having some level of augmentation or Botox or something cosmetically done, would you say it was okay? What would be your advice to them?
No, I would tell them to walk away. The thing about my ex, he never really said, "Oh, you need to get this done." It was more like subliminal, like, "Oh, well, this person, my ex had the best body and she had double D boobs and like a perfect figure." You know what I mean? Like that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. It wasn't like, "Oh, you need to get this done."
sure.
But when
Sure.
someone's telling you these things or they're idolizing certain people, then you think like, "Oh, well, I don't really look like that. But maybe if I did, then, he would look at me differently," type of thing.
But the pressure on women is just insurmountable all the time. I mean, from images to what you got to do and everything that goes into it. So, my question is when you finally did get to that place in your life where you looked within, how long did it take for you to melt away all of that stuff that was external that you felt like you needed to do? What was that cathartic transformation for you like?
I would say a few years because it started when my ex and I were in our third separation. So we had four separations. And that's when I actually started writing the book. And then after that, we got back together for a year. And then when we split up, the final separation, which was July of 2024, is when I really started working on myself like internally. So I worked a little bit before, but then I really was like, I need to fix myself because what's happening is I'm all the guys that I'm meeting after him are extensions of him. So you have, you know, this version of him, that version of him. And it wasn't until I started working with a relationship coach who's also a therapist, and she explained that to me. She's like, everybody that you're meeting is just an extension of your ex. And until you fix what's wrong with you, that's what you're going to keep attracting. It's like laws of attraction.
Yeah. So, was it painful to write the book? I mean, when you go through a
No.
memoir, no?
Well,
It-
the first book, no, because the first book is just all about my procedures and it's
Sure.
funny. Like it's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
humorous.
yeah.
The second book is called From Bullshit to Broken Hearts. That's in publishing right now. That one is more about the marriage, narcissism, and it's the same kind of format where I have experts in all the books, but they're written in a very humorous way. So it's
Okay.
serious topics, but not really. Like it's
Okay.
a fun read.
Because I'm always wondering when you have to go through those memoirs as a writer, when you have to relive that, because you do, you have to go back into those
Mhm.
shadows that you walked away from, if that's something that's painful. But I would imagine, has this book been cathartic? Have you gotten feedback? Has it been what you hoped it would be?
This book is becoming much more popular now. So it's been over a year that it was published. And now I feel like more people are even reading it than before. So it became a bestseller because of the Kindle, like pretty quickly, because we
Yeah.
did like marketing campaigns and it worked out really well. But now so many people are reading it and they're using it kind of like a guide
Yeah.
for, different procedures that they want or beauty treatments, because I have experts explaining step by step how each of them work, where if you're kind of on the fence or you're scared, you know exactly what the expectations are.
Yeah. So who's been your inspiration? Who's been that heroic force for you in your life that's allowed you to evolve to this point to tell your story and to get into this place you're at?
To be honest with you, I haven't really had anybody really inspiring me.
Yeah.
It's because I don't really follow people like that. So I don't really watch, a lot of like podcasts and shows because I don't want to be influenced. I want to just do everything my own way.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to follow because I feel like if I try to follow somebody else, it's not going to be authentic.
Yeah.
So I kind of just staying in my own lane.
Gotcha. So, is there anybody on the planet right now that's been down a journey that is similar to yours that you would love to hang out with and talk to that might help you on your journey?
One person I would say, and I did read her book, would be Demi Moore.
Yeah.
Her book was amazing. Her journey's amazing. I have a lot of admiration for her. I would say, but in terms of people that have done the procedures I've done and been through the divorce and talk about it so openly and freely, I don't know if there's anybody really
Yeah.
publicly. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You got these two different lives that you're leading, and obviously you're busy and successful with them. What's your philosophy on work-life balance? How does that work for you?
That is a good question because I feel like recently I haven't been super as balanced as I was. Like this year started off, I was a little imbalanced. That's why I came to Cabo because to kind of like rebalance myself because I feel like I was torn in so many different directions with the Instagram and then I was doing like runway modeling and then I had the book and then I just, finished the second book and then um just certain companies are looking at the show now type of thing and like wanting to put it on their platform, so it was like everything happening at once and I the other week almost had like a complete breakdown. I was like, okay, I need to like take a pause
Uh,
and kind of restructure myself because it's a lot happening at one time.
so coming from the mortgage industry, whenever you're dealing with finances and money, it can be a serious world that you're dealing with. You've entered this world of writing and podcasting and kind of a
Mhm.
different venue. Do you like it? Is it fun?
It's fun.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it on my own terms, and I realized that last week because on the show, we were having a lot of different guests and flying in and that sort of thing. And I think that I decided I would rather just talk about, and just do like these short segments and talk with my friends and not have so much responsibility because it's a lot when
Yeah.
you're, dealing with that and then Instagram and having to with brands and it's just so much. So I had to like kind of narrow it down to like what works for me. And yes, I like to talk. And for me, it doesn't feel like work, but it has to be done like a certain way.
Sure. Do you need, would you be able to segue all the way over into this media part of your life?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no, you don't need that balance of the mortgage, that
No. So
world.
my ex and I are partners, but I'm not focused on that any longer. So
Right.
he's taken over the mortgage side and the company's built to the point where we have, a president and like different divisions. So he does that. We're still partners, but I'm completely disconnected from that
Okay.
world. Otherwise, I
So,
would probably go really crazy if
yeah,
I had to
right.
do everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the big, huge word retirement flashes up in your mind, what do you think about? What's retirement mean for you?
I feel I don't want to be retired. I feel like for many years I wasn't working and I was raising my kids and I knew I wanted to give them 110% and I did. But once they were grown, I was like, I need to go back to work. Like because I'm a worker and I've always been a worker and I can't even imagine being retired. I don't want to be retired. I'm having fun, with what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And I just feel like retirement to me sounds like boring.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight and you went back to your childhood home in Baltimore and you walked up into the room at your age now and there was a film projector and you hit play on it and it showed a 60-second highlight reel of the life you've lived so far, would that young version of you believe that this is the life that you've led so far?
I think so. The only thing that I would have done differently is I would have left my ex in 2009 when things started to go bad, and I didn't. So if I had to do it all over again, I definitely would have left in 2009.
So quick segue here with the mortgage industry being up and down, and you said '09. That was when that whole bubble was bursting. What
Mhm.
is it? What's that roller coaster ride been like being in that world?
We were lucky because we were doing mostly A paper. So when the
Okay.
subprime market crashed, it didn't really affect us, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And we had built over time from being a broker to an actual, direct lender, that's where we are now. So because we didn't do a lot of those loans, those loans were like it was like a house of cards. And when you
Yeah.
saw like the whole world explode,
Yeah.
um, that now So we were always pretty stable. So it didn't really affect us like it did
Okay.
other companies. And we've weathered a lot of storms.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd imagine so.
Yeah.
So, of everything that you've done in your life, overcome, accomplished, and become, what are you the proudest of?
My books. I love it. I love being an author. I love my books. I think it's been really fun. And I like when people read the we're from bullshit to Botox and they don't know me, but then
Yeah.
they talk about it to other people and how much they like the book. It's amazing.
So when that first book came out and you got that box delivered to your house and you opened it up and you saw the pulp, you saw the reality of it. What was that like?
It was amazing. I couldn't even believe that it became a bestseller so quickly. I mean, it was like it beat like Malcolm Gladwell for the week, and I was like, this is
Oh yeah.
insane. It was super fun. Yeah, I loved it.
So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, everyone you
Mhm.
work with, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I just think I'm like super normal and regular. And when other people treat me differently or they say things like, oh no, that you're this and that, like I don't look at myself like that. I just look at myself as like just like a regular person.
Yeah, for sure. So this writing gig's just going to go on and on. You got all kinds of
Yes.
different ideas that you sketch out. How do you do that? Do you just come to this epiphany when you wake up, or do you have a
Yes.
notebook? How does it work?
So I do. I have a notebook and it's just like I just think of, I just do a lot of thinking when I'm sleeping. So,
Yeah.
so I was lucky. I just got a book deal with a publisher. So, because the first book was self-published, and now they're republishing From Bullshit to Botox. They're publishing the second, and then I have a deal to write a third. So that's why I'm here because I'm going to try to figure out like what my third book is going to be.
Okay. So let me ask you this. You obviously have an adventurous soul and spirit about you. If you could get into a time machine and
Mhm.
go back in time and see one event in human history, or possibly go into the future 10 or 20 years and see what we've become, where would you go? What would you love to see with your own eyes?
I think I'd like to see the future like 20 years from now.
Okay.
I don't know if I really would want to go back, but I would like to see the future.
Okay. So if anybody wants to get the books, they want to reach out, your podcast, any of the work that you're doing, where do they go? Where's the best place?
SandraLenaSilverman.com is my website. Sandra Lena Silverman is my Instagram. And the show is on YouTube and different podcast platforms. And that's called Parties Over Show. And you can find it also on my Instagram or the website. And the From Bullshit to Botox right now is sold on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Okay. So I always remember years ago, Sammy Hagar would just go on and on about Cabo. Is he down there? Does he have a place?
I think
Is
so because
okay.
I see pictures of him all over the
That's
place.
what I thought. I
Yeah.
figured he was the patron saint down
Uh-huh.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he has the tequila and that whole
Yeah.
thing going on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's like more downtown. So I'm closer to San Jose.
Okay. Excellent. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you so
story. Thank
much.
you for your
Thank you for
time.
having me. This
Yeah.
has been
Best.
great.
Yeah, absolutely. And